Hey out there, this is Friday, the 24th day of June 2016, and it's about 18 minutes before 11 in the morning here in Northern California. And I wanted to talk a little bit about current events, not much in the news. Uh, Britain just voted to leave the EU, the European Union, which is a big deal. And I noticed that the Dow Jones is down, the last I saw, over 500 points. And I understand that there's a lot of investors that are nervous, and that probably explains the dip in the Dow. The other thing I wanted to talk about was seeing Paul Craig Roberts on the Alex Jones show. He was talking to David Knight recently, and he was talking about the Orlando shooting. And he was saying that he thinks that the possibility exists that this was a hoax, a fraud, like a false flag type thing. And, when you think about it, the idea that this was allowed to happen, that this guy was stinking to high heavens as having the potential, the capacity, the propensity to commit such a crime, and nothing was done, is ridiculous. So, yeah, in that sense, it was allowed to happen by our authorities or certain elements within the authority complex, let's say. And I can't name names because I don't know who that would be to name. But obviously, this guy was a danger to not only himself, but to everyone around him, from everybody that has spoken about his character. He was a loose cannon. And so he probably should have been in jail, much less have guns. And that's what I've heard other people point out about this whole don't fly, don't buy guns list. Well, if little children are getting on the list, which they are, who are completely innocent because they share the same name, you can see that there's little or no vetting going on. They don't know who the heck is, to be on the list or not on the list. And, and there's no due process. It's a big deal if you get on the list and you're told, well, you can't defend yourself. You don't have Second Amendment rights anymore. But they're trying to conflate everything to make it, well, it's just insurmountable. We got an overwhelming problem, so the most logical thing to do is just take away certain types of guns out there, certain types of long guns, let's say, rifles. And, calling them assault weapons, and nobody needs them but the military and all this. But, understanding the nature of the Second Amendment, you understand that this was given to the people as a right to defend themselves from a rogue government, from any kind of evil coup that might be tried to establish in their government. That this really is a check and balance on the government leaders, on their legitimacy or possibly illegitimacy, which in many cases happens. And right now we've got an illegitimate government, in my estimation, not all of them, but on both sides of the aisle. It's not a Republican-Democrat problem. It's not a capitalist-communist problem. It's not a conservative-liberal problem. It's not a male-female problem. It's not a race problem. This is a systemic problem, and it all has to do with money. Money is always the root problem for everything. And like it's been said by plenty of wise people before me, if guns were outlawed, then only outlaws would have guns, which is purely logical. It makes perfect sense because we all know that by making things illegal, often that taboo instigates curiosity in that thing. So you would see a lot of people lose interest, for example, in cocaine if it didn't have that taboo, if it wasn't made illegal. Well, what is it about this thing they don't want me to have? You understand how this works? So actually, by making something, banning something, making it taboo, it makes the allure that much greater. It's a way to promote that thing. really. And you might say, well, that doesn't make sense, and just come down hard on people and, make a war on it. Well, it never ends, you see. This is where they want us. And this is the main theme of what I wanted to talk about today. Is I wanted to talk about the profound division they have manufactured, or better yet, they have conjured up, and the myriad of ways in which we, humanity, are divided, not just here in America, but all over the world. But I'd like to start on a microcosmic level in America and just point out how this political campaign, the election year that we have going on here, how this has made us so divided, and how this is perfectly okay, and how open and heartfelt discrimination is 100% okay, wholeheartedly approved by the establishment. In other words, it's okay for you to absolutely hate Democrats, or conversely, it's absolutely all right for you to hate Republicans. Nothing wrong with that. And if you're a landlord, you can fully discriminate. So if all the landlords out there turned out to be Democrats, and there would be a lot of more homeless Republicans out there, because the Democrats say, I don't want you to rent from me. So that would be the situation, or vice versa. If it was all the Republicans that own, then the Democrats might be out of a place to live. But you see the absurdity of this, that they're actually promoting it. And let's take what's going on in America, for example, in the last several years on, the promotion of LGBT causes, gay and lesbian, homosexual, transgender, all these issues that have been promoted so wildly that they light the White House up in, the rainbow colors. Or here in California, they do it to the, the Capitol. And they're promoting this. I mean, and people have forgotten where the whole rainbow comes from. How this was God's gift to man as a promise that the earth would never be destroyed by flood again. So, people don't understand the origins of, why we were given a rainbow. And, it's been usurped, it's been hijacked by a special interest group, because after all, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about people that only care about their interests. And, they only care about you tolerating what they want. But then you understand it opens Pandora's box for other people saying, well, I think this should be tolerated. And you just throw in the kitchen sink there, and we're all supposed to tolerate everything. But if you look in history and you see all through the ages, anytime you see this kind of decadence where, people try to cram it down your throat, you've got to accept me, you've got to tolerate me, there's always somebody else that stands up and says, no, you've got to tolerate me and my beliefs. Like NAMBLA, the National Association for Man-Boy Love, or the National, Advancement of Man-Boy Love Association. I don't know what it is, okay? But it's about men believing it's okay to have sex with boys. I mean, it's reached absurdist levels. We've reached the pinnacle of madness in this country. Okay, and simultaneously, concurrently, we've got these people over in the Middle East that are stirring up a metaphorical hornet's nest, creating untold hatred for the West and all that we stand for, whereby anybody that calls themselves a Christians over there now is getting their head cut off, because so many of the American soldiers are identifying themselves as Christians. So it's made it very unsafe for people all over the world, these dubious wars. And now they're shipping them in. They're saying, well, what do you mean? You don't want them, all these poor war refugees, to come to America and all these European countries? Well, you're not compassionate. You're not empathetic with others. You're a lowlife. You're a nobody. You're just a mean person if you don't want everybody and their brother to come in now. And we know what they're creating is a clash of civilizations, and it's deliberate. It's as obvious as the day is long. Knowing that in these countries, look at Saudi Arabia, the homosexuals are murdered. In Islam, they feel it's their duty, a lot of these people, not all of them, but there is elements in the Islamic world that believe this is their duty to murder gay people. Do you understand? Any way they can. There was an imam talking about it. It was played on the InfoWars where the guy was saying, yes, you could do it 5 different ways. You can burn them. You can strangle them or something. You can throw them off a cliff or a combination of those things. Whatever it is. Or cut their head off. That's what you can do. That was one of the 5. And and these are the people that, Hillary Clinton purportedly, from news sources I'm listening to like InfoWars, is accepting large amounts of money from a piece of crap country like Saudi Arabia. Hillary Clinton, who is supposed to be on women's side, she's for women's rights, okay? And you see how they treat women over there? David Knight was doing a piece on the women in Saudi Arabia, and I almost cried. Okay, these women, they're driving bumper cars, folks, because they're not allowed to drive. You talk about misogyny. Hillary Clinton is a misogynist, okay? Not Donald Trump. He's not for taking money from Saudi Arabia. Okay, this is ridiculous. People need to know who these people are. They're not liberals, folks. They're fascist. And they come in all colors and stripes, and they call themselves conservatives, they call themselves Republicans, they call themselves capitalists, they call themselves socialists, they call themselves Democrats, they call themselves liberals. But at the end of the day, folks, they are mean, fascist, crony capitalists that do not have the interest of the people at hand or at heart, okay? I'm telling you, folks, beware of anything that people coming out with these taxpayer protection schemes like they did here in California for the property tax. Oh, hey, we're going to come in and we're going to lock your property taxes in so that you don't have to pay more, even though you see prices in your neighborhood rising. They're not going to be allowed by law to come in and reassess your property, which would have acted as a check and balance. Do you understand? That people would have said, no, you're not going to be allowed to manipulate those markets. I'm not going to have my tax continue to go up. I live for 50 years. My taxes start at $100 or $200 a year. And by the end of my life, I'm paying $10,000, $15,000 a year. That's the reality. That's what would have happened. And they would have said no. So instead, the homeowners go along with it because they're short-sighted. And they believe people, they trust people. They say, how can a taxpayer protection plan be bad? Because they're devious. The people that are manipulating us are deviants. They're evil people. They're evil genius. And the only hope we have is to get ahead of these people, to get smart, to get really smart and understand the root cause of our problem, because these people don't care who you are, what you are, or anything else. Nothing. Democrat, Republican, man, woman, gay, straight, they don't care. They just want to continue to manipulate you through the currency, through unsound money. Just keep running up the debt as I speak. It's just rising in leaps and bounds and kicking the can down the road and telling their constituency that's in power, say, look, just give yourselves a raise. Just make sure your numbers are going up faster than we debase the currency, and you'll be fine. It's not going to be you that's paying back that debt. It's falling on the backs of the poor. We're stealing their wealth till the 3rd, 4th, 5th generation in perpetuity, whatever it takes, just so you and your kids are well heeled. Everything's going to be fine. Don't pay any attention. Don't look at the storm. Don't look at the impending day of destruction coming upon you, the day of reckoning, your comeuppance for the crimes you've all committed against humanity. That's what they want. They just want to create one diversion, one distraction